Okay, so I'm going to start with a little bit of a introduction to those of you who haven't been here before. So, International Forest Therapy Days. Well, first of all, I'm Katrina Gilby and I'm kind of the janitor here. I open the doors and close the doors as well. So IFT Days, International Forest Therapy Days, started in 2018 with a reckless effort of some of us, Vitaly as well, to bring together scientists and practitioners and people who were just really had a heart set on this newly emerging, as if it was new, of nature and health field. And we organized an event 2 times in Finland, and it was a great success. We were in the process of organizing the next one in 2020, but then you know what happened, and we brought everything online. And after that, we sort of changed the format into monthly circles, which are open for everyone. And we try to bring themes that relate to the forest and humans and how we get along, and we are open for contributions from whoever finds a voice that's somehow relevant and interesting. So sometimes we have circles that are only open for or are just about community coming together and chatting about whatever arises. So these are very low threshold, at least hopefully, for people. And today we have An Mertens talking, and I'm not going to be able to say anything about this, so I leave it all to An. And I think Vitalia would be good to also give a little bit of a introduction, because Vitalia brought An to the circle. So can you introduce An, or why you thought that you wanted to bring An to this circle today?
Yes, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this Saturday morning or night or evening in the place you are. Yeah, I invited Anne because I'm very curious for many years of her work. We've been meeting in very different formats, mainly online, writing proposals and exchanging ideas. Yeah, and this year I met Anne in Zene River, one of Zene River walks that we are doing for 2-3 years here in Brussels. And I was so happy that now it feels that time is right and we can learn something together. So I know also Anne still very little. I know that she has this enormous, very vast field of thinking and creating. She's a great artist and doing so many beautiful things. But yeah, I think curiosity and to know you better is really the main cause of this invitation. So really welcome into the space and present yourself the way feels right and just for yourself and for others. So please, floor is yours.
Thank you, Vitalia. Thank you, Katrina, for inviting me and presenting me. If you don't mind, before I start, I would like to do a little...
1 second, An. Your voice somehow now went down.
Oh, is this better?
No.
Oh. Yeah, so, is this better?
No, it sounds very faint. It's odd because it just all of a sudden changed.
Okay. Yeah. Is it because of... like this better?
No. What changed?
It was for a second like coming back and then it
Yeah.
disappeared again. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so for those who don't know, I just discovered yesterday that...
Can you hold it or no? But you didn't hold it before.
Is this better?
No.
Yeah, strange.
That is odd.
Okay.
Now, and now again, it's coming and going a little bit.
Maybe it's because it's on all the time that it's not taking more background on my voice. Is that possible? I'm trying to find sounds.
I wonder if it would help if you relogged one of them,
Sorry.
relogged in.
Okay.
I can, I'm stopping the recording, by the way.
So I would like to indeed hear a little bit, if it's not too much asked, who's in the room, because that helps actually to to direct my stories. So if you don't mind, that would be really nice.
Can I give the voice to Henrik, maybe?
Okay, thank you. So I live in Belgium, in the old city of Leuven. I'm from Sweden, and sorry, just woken up. Yeah, I am nature connected and try to stay connected as much as possible. And I'm interested in eco-psychology, eco-philosophy, existentialism, try to bring that together. Yeah, that's who I am. And I give the talking stick to Mac.
Thank you, Henrik. Yeah, my name is Mac McElroy. I find myself actually being received into a forested area, environmental center near the Gulf Coast of the United States. I describe it as being the wettest desert you can imagine because it's all sand and pine, very humid, a lot of annual rain, but the plant life here must, when it rains, the soil drains so rapidly because it's all sand that they must grasp the water as it passes by the roots and then hold on to it. So they're trees and understory plants and grasses that are very bristly and very water retentive. And this is an entirely different ecosystem than I've lived in before. But I arrived here in March along with a couple of other people, and an organic community is just organized. At the age of 76, having worked a lot with my hands during my life, but also becoming a community psychologist later in life and doing indigenous work, it's our joke here is that I may be the first green burial on the land, and so yeah, and my dog and I walk in the forest and daily and down by the pond, and I just am as open as I can to observing the rotation of all the wildflowers that are here, the insect life, the bird life, and it's a combination of it's contemplative work. There's a 2-year-old, there's a 4-year-old, and both their two different sets of parents, and we're just falling in love with each other in the place.
Hmm.
So let's see, I'll pass it to Haru. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
I think Haru is saying that she's today only listening and her sound and her video are off. So perhaps she will put something in the chat. Haru is placed in Japan.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, then I'll take over again. So I'm An Mertens. I'm based in Brussels, and I'm an artist since 2006, almost 20 years now. And I think Vitalia invited me because in 2019 I created a collective of artists or humans, trees, and algorithms. That's called Anaïs Berg. I can show you actually the website. So let's see. Do you see it?
Yes.
Yes. And so it's the idea is that with every project that we do since 2019, so there's quite a list in the meantime of things that we have done. We combine human intelligence with vegetal intelligence and artificial intelligence. And to see what this intersectionality brings us in terms of experiences, thinking, experiments. So I would say it's rather research art than anything else. We organize projects that are mainly commissions or subsidized and turn out into installations, publications, websites, yeah, something like that. I'm indeed invited by Vitalia today because we met recently on several walks. Vitalia is in every walk in Brussels that has to do with trees, I think. No, Vitalia, you're very active. The last walk, oh, sorry, that was not the right, this one. The last walk was 2 days ago, and it's a walk, maybe I'll show you the website first. So there is also an English button that will be better. No, doesn't really change. So it's called a deep time walk. And it's beautiful, actually. It takes 3 hours and a half. And you walk 4.6 kilometers, which are actually is also measuring in time the 4.6 milliard years of our planet. It's a concept that is invented by the Schumacher College in England. So it's still, for those who are in Belgium, it's still on tomorrow at 10 o'clock. But what is beautiful is that actually this is the last moment, and you see that there is a 3-meter measurement here, and that's the end of the walk, and that's when the humans appear. So we walk for 4.5 kilometers or 4 kilometers, and everything is happening in terms of evolution on Earth without humans. And then the humans arrive, and then the focus is on the last, like the half bit of the iron ending of that meter, which is yeah, when actually the civilization arrives. And she ended her walk, and that was for me very disturbing, but also reminding me why I started Anaïs Berg, is that, so you see when, this is the technomass in the year 1900, consisting of plastic, metal, asphalt, bricks, aggregates, concrete. And then this is it in 2024, So when you compare it to the biomass, we are more like producing more technomass than there is biomass. And I think for me, that's really, it was motivating actually, also by a guide that's very important to me, who's Donna Haraway. And her book, she has written many books, but the one that is, I think, very inviting today is Staying with the Trouble. It's what Vitalia said before we started today, is like, okay, you can drive 30 kilometers in Belgium then, which is a long way in Belgium, not in the States, and probably not in Japan, but in Belgium, 30 kilometers is something. To find a quiet forest where you have the impression that you're in nature, and then you have to go back to the polluted big city. Yeah, as I'm based in Brussels, I'm also organizing my activities in Brussels mainly, or around, not trying to find pristine nature environments, but dealing with the trouble and trying to create some positive and other narratives inside this trouble, because that's also, I think, it's also part of this book, is that we need other stories. We need stories, and that was also the end of the book, actually. The guide, Valérie, she clearly said, yeah, it's very depressing to end this work like this, but we need other stories, and we need to be able to dream, and we need to be able to create a future that is attractive, that is appealing, that gives hope. So then Vitalia, you remember very well, I said I wrote a novel, a fiction novel. I can't show you much about this, but it will be published and presented on the 29th of March in Brussels, in Passaporta. And it's called Reports from the Forest. And the idea is that, I wrote it in the Forêt de Soigne, Sonjewoud, Sonian forest. That's like the big green lung of Brussels. It's old, yeah, it's actually, the soil has always been forest, the coal forest of Europe. It's part of that. It has been replanted in the 18th century, but the fact that the soil has never been cultivated by humans makes it a very special place, just right next to the city, or even part of the city. I mean, you can go there by tram, by bike, by train. It's like half an hour from the center of Brussels. It's really nothing. And it's an amazing beach forest. But I wrote this book together with a hornbeam, a very old hornbeam in that forest. And the idea is that mother trees in virgin forests all over the world are kidnapping teenagers. They are kidnapping them in order to spend time in the forest and relearn or unlearn, and get new old knowledge with them. And if once they understood the mechanics or the ways of living together with more than human beings, and once they have really incorporated this world vision, they can go back home. But then, so the book starts actually when they're adults, and when they're adults, they all meet and they occupy important functions, political and economical functions in the world, and they create the kind of green revolution we're all dreaming of. I tried to write a story that gives hope, but that also makes readers understand why it's important to start telling stories that are less anthropocentric and more respectful and in communication with more than human beings. So yeah, I think that's maybe the main motivation for the things we organize with Anna Isberg is to give trees a voice through technology or just through humans or through just being in nature in silence. This is the book or one of the books that I'm organizing these days. It's called Friendship with Trees. So it is a project that I'm doing that's called Author Rights for Trees. It will be my main focus for the next year. So let me go to English here. Yeah. So the idea is that there is a whole art scene, but also I think in philosophy there is a whole scene of humans or in anthropology also thinking about living and working and meeting with more than human beings. And especially in the arts, it's not only trees, it's also bacteria, fungi, animals. Yeah, it can be anything actually, any living being. But how do we make sure that we don't reappropriate these beings for our own interest and artwork? So how to make sure that we can communicate with them and hear, get their opinions. It's very anthropomorphic to think like that, but the walks we're organizing are mainly forest bathing walks with different techniques and methodologies. So it's also about listening, immersing, sitting, waiting, observing, writing, drawing, sensing. And then another part of this reflection project is then to see how can we organize a real collaboration that is respectful. Do you hear that? No, that's fine. So how to organize a collaboration that is respectful, also in terms of administration, financial agreements. We are paid for the work we do as humans. Why would the trees I'm collaborating with not get something in return? Kind of, is it money? Is it replanting more trees? Is it, I don't know, what kind of investment, what kind of act can we do in order to make sure that this is a respectful collaboration? So there will be more walks. There is one this afternoon in Bois de la Cambre, next week also in Bois de la Cambre, and then we do a panel discussion in Ghent with also a lawyer and a bioengineer communicating with the field of trees, which is amazing, the work she does. And then there will be an online publication and an offline, a print publication that function more like manuals on how not only artists, but also humans in general can start collaborating with more than human beings. So that's one of the projects that I'm on for the moment. And I will also be interviewing artists working with more than human beings. So if you think of people that are really interesting in how they communicate in the methodologies that they have established to collaborate with more than human beings, I'm very open and very interested to hear and to get in touch with these people so that they can be part of the publication. I think that's one project. The other project is now ongoing. It's called 3 Times. I could have actually showed you. Yeah, anyway, I'll show you the map we made. But I thought I had a nice picture here, but I maybe show you this one. So this is a Scots pine in the Lierman, which is a nature reserve in the north of Flanders, above Antwerp. And as you can see, there is here there is a dendrometer installed, and the dendrometer measures actually the movement of the trunk. So when a tree does photosynthesis during the day, it sends up all the water towards the crown, and the trunk shrinks and it sends down the sugar, like the transformed CO2 into sugars. It sends it down to the roots. But the effect is that yeah, that the trunk shrinks. I mean, we're talking about a tenth of a millimeter. It's not much, but you can see the movement actually. We're also measuring the CO2 consumption. We're measuring all the weather elements like sunlight, temperature, humidity, wind, and we're measuring the soil temperature and humidity. And we're doing this for 3 Scot pines, one in the Lierman, one in Kalmthoutse which is also above Antwerp, and one in Bosland. There are 3 nature reserves with the same kind of biotope in the sense that they're like Mac's environment, they're sandy soils, very poor, very dry, and as you can see on the picture, yeah, there's a lot of heather, pine trees and oak trees. It used to be, so during from the Middle Ages on, actually, the heather was a way to tend the sheep, but also get what you put on the soil in order to fertilize it, fertilizer, based on the peat, and so the heather was a kind of cultivated landscape in a lot of the areas in Flanders, and especially there the sandy soils. And when pesticides were invented in the end of the 19th century, it was all planted with pine trees for the mines, the coal mines. And today you still see parts of these pine, what they call dennenakkers, so pine cultivation plantations, and heather that they're trying to restore. What did we do? And the opening was just this week. There is an opening in an art center here in Brussels with an installation, but the same installation is also in the different nature reserves in the visitor centers, which was a very interesting experience actually to work with them, being an artist and having to defend that our work is not just promotion of who we are, that it's also research and also something. So what we show is the idea of a time experience of trees. So we wanted to make sure that sorry, this is the map that we made. It's an A1 map, so it's a big, maybe I make it smaller, that will help. It's very big. Yeah. Oh, are you still there?
Yes, we are still here.
Okay. Yeah, just that I can't really. No. Okay. It's not responding. It's probably anyway, yeah, I'm gonna quit and open it again. Sorry for this. Yeah, in the meantime, So the idea is that we looked at the time experience of trees. We have an 8-hour work day. Most people work from 9 till 5, have weekends. We take our holiday in the summer mostly. We have rhythms that define our lives when we go live alone, when we get children, when we retire. All these things are quite normalized. And so there is a notion called crib time, which is a notion coined by people who have disabilities and cannot cope with the normalized time, because imagine Google Maps, you ask to go from one place to another place and it says it's 10 minutes, but if you're in a wheelchair, it might take you 2 hours. So we thought it was interesting to take that notion to look at how trees experience time. And so we made this map we made 3 things, but I'll show you first this map, where what you can see is the 3 trees in the different nature reserves. One is this bosland tree is part of a forest, and the 2 other trees are standalone Scots pines. And on the map you see actually from left to right is 1 year, and from bottom to top is 1 day. So you can see different breathing rhythms of the tree. Let's say that because it's pine, they don't really stop their activity in winter. They continue to do photosynthesis, but a lot less. So you could say that they take a deep in-breath in winter, and then they breathe out in summer. This is summer. So you have the seasons here: hibernal, prevernal, estival, and then serotonal and autumn. And that's so the green, the blue activity actually is the photosynthesis. It's when the tree trunk shrinks, and you see that in summer. Yeah, you also see maybe on the screen it's not so clear, but there is this very light gray line. That's the sunrise, and there's a gray line here. It's the sunset. And so you see that actually the sunrise and the sunset are not so important for the start of activity of the tree. And in summer, it's a lot more active. There's also a lot more sun. That's this, what you see at the bottom. And there is hardly any light in winter. And there's also like the temperature in summer goes up and in winter goes down. I mean, all these things we know. But what we thought was interesting was to see when the tree wakes up. So this tree that is clearly east-oriented with the crown wakes up around 7 or starts activities around 7. And you see these islands. So we made a kind of topographical map so that moments that are typical moments here around lunch or just before lunch is a lot of activity. They start creating islands. These are like very important moments in the photosynthesis. And at night in brown, that's when the tree fills itself again with water, but also does the permanent growth. And so you see also in summer that during the night, this tree is like kind of really filling up again and growing, while in winter, it's hardly anything. So you could also say that there is a breath, another breath from the midnight to midnight. So let's say that it takes a deep in-breath during the day, and then it breathes out again at night. And you can also see the differences between the different trees. We thought of making a tree clock first, and then we thought, no, every tree is so different depending on where it's growing, how the sun is, how it's capturing the sun. Even if the environments are very similar, a lot of differences happen. Like this tree standing in a forest has a smaller crown, but actually quite a lot of activity, and activity is super steady. Yeah, I'm sorry, they're doing works in the building.
We can't hear it at all.
Oh, good. Oof,
Yeah.
that's very good news. And also this tree, like, for example, only grows at night until midnight, and then in the morning hardly anything happens. So there are still a lot of questions that come up with the work we did. There's also, we put the full moon, and so here is the legend. So the black dot is a new moon, and the white dot is the full moon. So we put the new moon and the full moon on top of as another grid to read. And then you see actually that with the new moon, lots of things happen. There is like kind of a lot of activity with new moon compared to full moon. But also there we don't really, oh no, sorry, it's the black dot. Yeah, new moon. So there we don't really know exactly what's going on. And that was not, we're not scientists, we're artists. We're trying to reveal things that maybe are not so straightforward. But in this case, I thought that what happens here, what you can see, and that I found very funny, is that by using technology and by using big data, because we also, one member of our team is a data scientist, we discovered actually what people before the Gregorian calendars already knew, is that by observing the activity of a tree, you can, you can actually, so before the Gregorian calendar, we had tree calendars. So people knew that there was an effect of the sun and the moon on life on Earth, but they didn't have any time indicators. But they realized that the trees had, and so they would observe a tree in order to know when to plant. So when the tree after winter would grow buds, that's when they would start planting. And when the tree was ready to harvest the fruits, then that's when they would harvest their other plants. And so it's quite funny actually that we set up this whole thing with networks and infrastructure and technology and algorithms to come back to something that is like the old knowledge. I thought it was quite funny. And then the other thing we did is that we created a diary for each of the trees. And because they're in nature reserves, I'll try to make it bigger here. Because they're in nature reserves, they're not, I can't scroll anymore, no. It doesn't really want to obey. I think the file is a bit too heavy. Yeah. Anyway, I can give you the phone number for those who are in Belgium.
Mm-hmm.
And you can send an SMS to that phone number. And then it's also in English, it's in Dutch and English. And then you will receive two fragments a day from the 3 times diary. Only 2 fragments a day because we follow the slow rhythm of the trees. So the number, I'll put it in the chat, maybe the number. So, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't see the questions.
No, I was waiting for you to have a little pause and then we can we can talk about them. Yeah.
Okay. Are the trees of similar age? No, they aren't. The one in the forest is a lot younger than the two others. So that's also probably why it's so active. Still, it's only 51 years, and the others are 89 and 91. So yeah, that's definitely an issue. Are the trees' activities higher during full moon? Well, it seems that for what we I'm gonna make it smaller again. So what you see here is the black spot is the new moon and the white spot is the full moon. So if you look at the black spot, it seems that it's more active during new moon, but maybe it's just projection and it's, yeah, I don't know, but it seems that it's more active. I don't know. What do you think actually? Because
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
saw that pattern also. So I was wondering,
mm,
it seems to be more active, but at least here in the winter you can, or late autumn winter, you see it more clearly, but then I don't know. I
yeah,
just saw
and that's,
it's interesting,
yeah,
really
we
interesting.
didn't, this is, yeah, we started seeing things when we put all the different grids on top of each other.
Mm,
And it needs, I think it needs some scientific eyes or more, I don't know, more references or research.
mm,
But it's clear the moon is clearly influencing at
mm.
even full moon, new moon. I mean, I think there is something there with the moon. They
Very
also
interesting.
say, yeah, sorry.
It's very interesting.
Mm,
And I just wonder if I may ask also, um, like in Sweden, certainly in Finland also, I believe we have the pine trees that are like 500 years old.
mm,
It will be so interesting to see this,
mm.
going into because 100-year-old pine tree is just still adolescent or something in, how to say,
Exactly.
it's they can live for like 500-600 years before they start dying. So it would be
Yeah,
really interesting to see this.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, we don't have the luck here to have pine trees that are so old in
Mm.
Belgium. Yeah,
Oh, I know.
I do agree. I think it will be very different. And
Mm.
I think that a pine tree of 500 years old will have a different activity at night.
Yeah, it's not going to grow
No,
anymore.
but it
No.
will fill up with water though.
Yeah. And
The
it's
other
going to do
thing,
photosynthesis. So yes.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is that when you look at the picture of the, now where was it? Here, here, of the band dendrometer. I mean, we use the band dendrometer. It is a bit like measuring measuring the your
The
waist.
pulse. Yeah.
And there's also point dendrometers, which means that they go in, you have to drill a hole in the
Mm.
pipe. That's why we didn't use them. And then they send these kind of electric signals and they measure the substream. So they send two electric
Ah.
signals, one at the bottom and one at the top, and they measure the speed of in two directions, actually, up and
Mhm.
down. And that's how they can get an impression of how fast the sap stream goes. And that's much more precise. And when you work with older trees, that's the whole discussion among scientists, because we had contact with a few scientists. And they said, why don't you drill a hole? And I went like, I don't want to drill a hole for an art project in a tree's bark. I mean, we have been working in Holland with very old trees. I mean, you just don't do it, but they don't agree that it harms the tree. And of course, when it's a very old pine tree, you have a lot of dead wood around the trunk. And the dead wood, then you would have to cut anyway the dead wood in order to get a precise measurement of the movement of the trunk itself. Because if there is lots of rain, the dead wood expands, and if it's very dry, the dead wood shrinks. So you get more movement of the dead wood instead of the trunk. Is that clear?
Yes, yes,
Uh,
I understand.
and,
But it's also, it's reflecting the how you look at the tree or how you attend the tree as an object of research or as an participant in the research.
yes.
You don't want to hurt it, but
No. No.
a scientist, positivistic scientist would like to drill a hole or two, you know, oh, it's a different way of looking at your at the tree.
Exactly. Yeah. And these are, so in Arnhem last year, we did a similar project, but it had a different outcome. And we worked with these chestnut trees. And of course, it's very difficult to see on a picture, but they are 375 years old. So they are called the gatekeepers in Arnhem. And they're very impressive when you stand close. They have an amazing energy. And yeah, of course, I don't want to drill a hole in in the bark of that tree. It's just they're so veteran. I mean, they're so kind of, yeah, no. I mean, they're strong and everything, but it's not, yeah, it didn't suit the philosophy, indeed. Scientists can do it, but we don't. I think so. That was another project where we worked with different trees. This was another one. It's like actually, it looks like one tree, but it's 5 trees, and it's red beech, also quite old. And yeah, I mean, this project will have a book launched in February, end of February next year. And it was an installation that we did in Arnhem. They have like very close to the city center. They have these amazing parks. They used to be private property of very rich people, and then the municipality bought them at the point that these people left the city. So it's really, yeah, it's very beautiful. And we had an installation from June till December last year. They wanted to extend it because it had a lot of success. You could go sit with the trees, and there was a QR code that you could scan, and then you would get all kind of artistic interpretations of the data, but also sound. For example, each time a sensor would send a measurement, you would get a different sound together with the sound of the tree. It was very, yeah, it worked very well. But then they had budget cuts, and like it stopped. But did someone send an SMS? No. No,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, this has been a very a very serendipitous, sleepless morning for me, because the place where I'm at, where I'm living now, is in the process where we're on the journey of trying to restore forests that were turned into farms. You know, they'd been harvested of the native species of pine, and then a more commercial pine tree had been planted. And this part of the United States produces a great many telephone poles. The loblolly pine that they planted, and we're trying to restore the it would be a long process, but trying to bring back what's called the longleaf pine savanna environment, because there's a burrowing tortoise that's endangered, that is a keystone species in this ecosystem.
that is still present, and a fascinating. They burrow and they make burrows that go down, and they share the burrows with other creatures, especially during fire season. So they preserve the lives of other forest inhabitants when the fire regime takes place periodically, but they'll burrow, over 20-meter burrows, extended into the sand. But so you were talking about wanting to have more academic involvement, and this place is involved with academic entities here in Mississippi that are doing ecological things, and there might be some collaboration possible. So my questions are, I just transferred from my cell phone to my laptop, so that I could get a better thing, but I would love to get the contact information, your website, which I haven't, because I just logged in. I don't have the earlier chat. And because the modeling that you're doing is fascinating, the respiration cycles and the yeah, all of this stuff is just, my mind is really moving with it. And so this is just really welcome. Thank you, Vitalia. And so there could be some cross-pollination here, across the great big pond, that's similar. Because again, this is a sand environment. It's very lichen rich and very fungus rich, but it's not very bacterial rich because we really don't have soils to any great degree. And so yeah, there just seems to be a lot of similarity in some of the things and how this might apply in a broader way. I'm just rambling on in the early hours here. So
yeah, there's one thing that I forgot to show you actually. Let me see. Do you see my screen now?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Do you see? You see this kind of the data graph.
Oh, yeah.
It's made for phones really, but yeah, it's actually made for the phone. If you can
Okay.
open the link on your phone, because the idea is that people scan it on the spot and not look at it. So
Okay.
it's the
But it also can be, analyzed more, or it could be analyzed more thoroughly in other ways.
yes, sure.
Yeah.
But just to finish my story, I wanted to show you that the algorithm. So you see these colors here, and actually the algorithm analyzed seasons based on the data that we gave it. It's like regrouped the days per temperature, CO2 consumption, movement of the trunk, etc. And so what you see is that you get 4 seasons, but it's not the same 4 seasons that we know. So the green season is winter, and it starts already in October, and it goes until the beginning of March. And that's because last winter was very a gentle winter. So we thought it was interesting that the algorithm doesn't get autumn. I mean, we called it winter, but it could have been autumn from beginning of October till beginning of March. And then the gray is the spring. And then in summer, it distinguishes 2 types of summer days, a hot summer day and a gray summer day, which is the gray summer day is more typical for like the classical times in Belgium, but times are changing, of course. Anyway, that's, I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. But that's, yeah, that's also something we measured over 1 year. And of course, with climate change, it becomes interesting to measure longer so that you can compare from 1 year to another. When does the sap flow start? When is the most activity in summer? How long does the summer last? All these kind of things are interesting, but that's maybe more from a scientific point of view. We really stress the fact that we're artists and that we want people to get to know the tree in a different way than they're used to, and to know it so that they can relate better to a tree. So also, yeah, we have for 1 month, so one moon cycle, until the 5th of November, the full moon, there is a little wood board near the tree in the nature reserve saying, read a fragment of my diary, look at my data. And then we will take it away because the managers of the nature reserves are a bit worried that this tree will become too popular. And then people will disturb the wildlife around it. So it's also, it's like this kind of, yeah, trying to find ways using technology so that you can relate better to trees. That's, I think, the most important aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, I have it. There's another thought train queuing up in my mind here. Going back to the relationship with the chestnuts and this idea of him boring a hole in the tree to put a sensor and for greater, to gather data. The work that I've done with some indigenous folks, my understanding is they have been instructed by their spiritual allies to risk sharing sacred indigenous knowledge with the modern world in order to attempt to keep the modern world from destroying everything. It's risky, but there seems to be the time has come or has been in play for some time. And I'm just curious in the relationship with these ancient gatekeepers and beings, if there wouldn't be some way to bring in someone who had the ability to communicate and negotiate and divine as to whether these trees might be willing to take on some sort of self-sacrifice and acquiesce to assist us in trying to heal the whole. And if there's some way of divining into that or communicating and getting permission and collaboration.
Yeah, totally. So now I'm communicating with the trees for stories. I have a kind of talent to or ability to channel stories. But we worked with this bioengineer who communicates with trees through holistic practices. And she's Eileen van Dist is her name. She does forest management based on these kind of holistic practices. So I could indeed ask her to see if she can get this question passed to a tree. But still, I'm hesitant. In the sense that imagine that someone would ask you, do you want to get a needle in your body for 1 year so that we can know how you function? Even if they're not they're not ill. They're not. I mean, they don't have a disease. They don't. I don't know. I think I need some reflection for that also. Even if I can trust people who can communicate with trees on a witch-based practice, then maybe more European. You're in the European tradition. But maybe if you know indigenous people, I would be interested if they can ask the question because it's also um, about that was my question for the session of today, the communication with trees in this case. And okay, I can channel stories, but I have them always read by biologists because sometimes things come through that are maybe not totally scientifically correct. But all the information about planets, about communication with the outer, like with the
Yes.
moon, the stars, the Earth, that's always precise. It's amazing. But I'm wondering how this communication with trees works. Is it because for me it's quite new? It started 10 years ago, more or less, but new in a sense that I don't meet a lot of people who do it. Part of this bioengineer, and she has more experience than me. But we cannot answer the question like, is it our inner knowledge that is like addressed through the communication with the tree, or is it really the tree communicating?
Right. Are we projecting our own
Exactly,
story? Yeah. And
exactly,
because the frameworks we bring to this kind of activity are the conditioning that we have from the modern world and our our filters and the lenses that we have had implanted in us by civilization. There's noise in the system. And
exactly,
even in indigenous practice, indigenous things for places where I have been, where there is a strong tradition that is still operating in a community for really, really serious questions, they'll put it out, they'll put the question out to multiple diviners and look for a consensus response without giving them the context of the question. To reduce the biases, or to get around the biases, or what we may want or envision, or so yeah, I completely agree with the caution that's called for in this. But partially my sense, I see what I'm doing down here at the end of in the later stages of my life as a giveaway process, and strictly being of service, and I think that the times call for longer term investment by living beings in trying to keep the biosphere viable.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And this is, yeah, this said, I think maybe to give you one more element, but I think you all already are doing that. Yeah, thank you. Bye bye.
Yes.
Thanks for your attention. Yeah. Is in 2019, and I'm gonna share my screen again, I think. For the first time in my life, here. I learned diving, and I went on I was for 1 month. I was a volunteer in a coral reef restoration project, and it was like the first 3 days were so depressing because I had learned to dive in Indonesia in Komodo National Park, where the coral reef is absolutely stunning and quite intact, but everyone there was saying in a few years it will be horrible here. And then I did volunteer practice in the restoration project in Thailand. And there the reef is almost like, yeah, I don't know, maybe 50% of the reef has died. But the people are so engaged in trying to restore it. And like all we did during 1 month was cleaning up the soil of the sea, get rid of plastics and all kind of trash, and then take care of these little babies that you see here on these metal structures. And once they have grown enough, they are replanted onto the coral reef. And when I at the end of that, can I stop sharing my screen? Yes. At the end of that volunteer month, I thought I'm gonna stop all art practice because I was mainly working, doing literary experiments with code and organizing walks with trees next to it. And the walks with trees were as a kind of pagamento. I don't know if you heard about this notion of pagamento. It comes from Colombian indigenous communities. And it was passed on by a Colombian woman, an artist in Paris, to me. And it's the idea that whenever you eat or drink something, or whenever you feel joy in presence of a tree or nature or water or a river or the sea, that you pay something back. And it's not only saying thank you, it's doing, it's posing an act. It can be dancing, it can be a ritual, it can be something. And so for me, it started to become very clear that yeah, I wanted to dedicate my artist life in doing pagamentos, in trying to yeah, make time and make space and materialize things that would show this kind of gratefulness for these other beings. And I think,
The
yeah,
reciprocity.
reciprocity. Thank you.
Reciprocity, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's saving me from a kind of anxiety also in
Yeah.
yeah. So
Most modern humans extract great joy from the natural world, but it's an extraction. People go to the forest to feel good and then go back to whatever they're doing. And it's just another kind of form of taking. And it comes from a sort of a naivete of the deeper relationships.
yes, Katrina.
Yeah, because we talk a lot about reciprocity in the world of forest bathing. What do you, and it can be actions of, you collect trash when you go over. You are just gentle in the places where you visit and sort of, very concretely, just avoid going there where just, this kind of, you live in this kind of a gentle relationship with the places that you visit and that you're a visitor there. But how about next to these concrete actions in this idea of pagamento, isn't there also sort of and now it goes into this a level that it interests me, but I don't really quite understand, is that this the energy bit. So when we go, I'm starting to think that one of the reasons why we feel good in nature, next to all these theories about restoration and you know what happens in our brain, basically, what if it's just because this human world puts our energy into it distorts our energies or our vibe, basically. And when we go back to the natural vibing, it makes us feel better because it restores our energy. So that's the first thing. So when we are feeling joy in a forest, for example, isn't that already a pagamento, because our energy is, perhaps we can lift something. I don't know how it works, but in a forest, for example, if you have a unhappy, depressed, angry human, that's a different kind of gift for the forest than a happy, joyful, loving human. So can our vibe be a pagamento?
Well, that would go to a little different level. Some of the people I've had the privilege of spending time with would describe that they acknowledge that humans are kind of unique in the natural schema of things, that there's something a little different about the human. But we're also perhaps the most vulnerable of all the creatures, because, you know, it takes us so long to be navigating this, you know, system. And so many of them will suggest that the part of their cosmology, which is the story of how all this came to be, why it's here, but also there's the role of the human, and the human in many cultures, the purpose of the human is to feed the spirit world, is to purposely give back through ritual, through offerings, energetically, appreciation wise, creativity wise, is to nurture and to feed the invisible realms that are responsible for bringing the material world into existence. And that is, for many cultures, that is the purpose of this fragile, kind of odd creature that's, you know, in with all the rest of the beings. And that it's, for them, it's our unique role to run the reciprocal energetic pump between the worlds, to feed. And so in that, from that perspective, our griefs, our sorrows, our joys, our tears, our laughter all feed the other world. They're all food for the they're all energetic nurturance and nutrition for the spiritual allies, for the ancestors. And so the mother, the earth, can take can take and metabolize all of our pains and discomforts, griefs, losses, and transform them back and to feed them back to us in vitality and so forth. So yeah, go ahead.
To ask, but isn't there, because I've heard this before, that and in some practices you also do this, that you have a grief and you can sort of, you know, bury it into the ground and it's going to be transmuted by the earth. I always feel like, oh, I don't want to put more crap in there, but that there's this ability, let's say. But isn't there a difference of I have a treasure, I have this great big love that I want to bury into the ground. Isn't there a difference in energy?
Well, the thing is,
Sorry,
um,
Anne, it's going a
well,
completely different direction now.
again, from certain perspectives, and I don't know, I'm kind of holding forth here, but being incarnated means that we're going to have injuries. We're going to suffer, there's going to be hurts, there's going to be harms, we're going to die. We're going to be this form will fail at some point to sustain this, whatever our consciousness is in this particular case. And so part of life is, it's temporary, it's transient. Everything that we love, we will lose. And we may be a little unique in our awareness and anticipation of that, where other animals go about doing what they do, and then a predator feeds upon them, because everything's eating. Everything that I eat used to be alive. And I don't want to be embalmed and not be remetabolized. I want to actually pay my debt. I want the natural world. I want the microbes. I want the critters. I want to put me back into the flow, and not just put me in a box and embalm me, awaiting some, physical resurrection, that our current mythology, says will happen. And so we have a tendency to favor what we consider positive emotional states or experiences rather, but it's all food for the system. And in many of these other cultural practices that that seem unusual. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling on, but
No, thank you. And I want to give it back to Anne if you
yeah,
wanted to take it from there. Thank you, Mac.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I think it's all very interesting what you're saying, Mac, and all very true. I have done a training in shamanism, also universal shamanism. So without any, let's say, without things that you take, really using voice, drums, movement, touch. And I have had the privilege of experiencing these connections with other dimensions. It's amazing. And also to see how indeed everything is connected and everything recycles. But I think the pagamento is still something else. So in the sense that just think of breakfast, all the different ingredients that you take in during a breakfast. It's amazing. There is an amazing abundance there. Just to thank the plants that provide you this breakfast is easy. It's something, it's easy, it makes you joyful. But I think it can also be saying, I burn a little candle for these plants, which is an action that is outside of your own interest. So it's an action that you pose especially for them. It can be a meditation, it can be a dance of a minute, but it's something that you do not for yourself. I think there is a slight difference in what I understood of the notion of pagamento. And I do think that it, in the end, in the long end, it serves yourself because it makes you more joyful even, and it makes you more grateful, and it makes you more conscious about everything that we have to our disposal, that we can intake, that has been alive, and that is serving our health and our well-being. So yeah, for me there is a difference in the intention.
Maybe I can step here a little bit about intentions.
Yes, step in.
Yeah, with Mark, we are in this studying with Nora Bateson about, I don't know, patterns of our behaviors and habits. Very much for me, it is very much about that. Yeah, and coming back to growth. So with Nora, we went to Rotterdam in end of August. It was biosemiotics gathering. It happens every year. And biosemiotics, so the semioticians who are studying language and these biologists, so the biologists who are interested in language and communication scientists who are interested in biology. So there's this biosemiotics, this beautiful mix. And there was one lady presenting, well, she works as a consultant for companies, how to communicate. And she was giving an example of growth hormone for children. So basically, she was explaining about her work, how growing of child or not growing of child, in this case with growing hormones, that how not growing of child creates very special relationship between child and parents and all people, different kinds of relationships that are being involved. And she was also talking when these hormones are being given to children, how this kind of big shock to change relationship, because like it was this kind of relationship established already, and child starts to grow, something starts to move, and this kind of relationships, they have to be to move. And it's not self-evident that, oh, everyone is joyful that finally child moves. So there are all kinds of processes going on that are very difficult, in fact. And I think somehow it connects about, to me, this, how we grow physically and spiritually and in all these different dimensions, and how this growing and how we relate to growing trees also, how we find some kind of similarities or relatedness or connections to growing trees. And at the same time, I think very similar processes are happening about when we stop to grow and start to age. Also, what is going on in our society. Yeah, like you spoke about transformation, no? That we humans, like many other organisms, become more porous, no? And this porosity, it's kind of preparation for dissolving and transforming in the environment. And like, I don't know what is happening, I think to a very large extent, not allowing body to be porous, no, like filling in all kinds of implants, all pores that appear in our bodies, we are trying to fill them and to keep body intact and to, I don't know, to pretend to create illusion that it doesn't age and to give certain appearances that body is not aging. And I'm also like thinking, because I had very strong feeling from work of Timothy Morton. Probably Anne, you know him, no? He's very influential in art world. So he wrote many books. The last one is Hell. No, I think now he's writing on Paradise, next book. But like what he said, very simple thing, but in certain context that really like impacted me very much me. So he said like how we behave with ourselves, with other people or non-humans, or other than humans, it's always the same pattern. So it's like it's not that, oh, I'm very nice to humans, but I'm very terrible to plants. That it's something maybe is invisible, but it's always the same pattern. How, yeah, and from what your work, basically, what you shared with us, I'm just kind of thinking, how we perceive growth of different living systems, of different organisms, and aging, degrowth, deterioration. I think they're always like same patterns. And what we do with our bodies, I think it's also reflected what we do with other bodies of non-humans. Yeah, I think basically what your work is bringing also how we can disrupt this destructive patterns, that very extractivist, very, yeah, don't allow life to go in cycles, basically. It disturbs this cyclicity, and now we see that it also disturbs seasonality. So how these destructive patterns can be transformed into I know less destructive of different kind. It's more, I think what I'm sharing, it's more reflection, yeah, what it evoked in me. But yeah, and I started with this intention that I think what Nora is always like coming back to this question, how this intention can look like that it doesn't repeat same patterns, that are destructive, which in the beginning can look very innovative, or it's very generative, it's very life and vitality given. And then like time passes and it appears as just this old pattern that gave, impression of being something what we are longing for. But because it comes from this old place of extractivism. So yeah, I think it's also about this work. How do we move into different place where different intentions, because I think there was I also feel in my life very much that there is this being in the same place and like, I don't know, no space of moving somewhere else because it's so being by all systems that we live. But as you say, maybe this Pagamento is the place to start because, yeah, it's also not very helpful to say, oh, I'm so stuck and it doesn't move. Maybe I have to go through these disappointments of intentions and see that this old intention, while I thought it was new, to arrive into something unseen or really new. And maybe it goes for many of us. Yeah, Katrina, I see you want to respond.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the time a little bit. I mean, I'm super happy to be disrupted by this. I feel disrupted, which is great. And it ties to what Vitalia was saying, like the intentions and things like that. And I'm thinking when if I would talk to someone, I'm thinking of a specific person and saying, look at what An has discovered, or look at these maps, which is beautiful. I would like to put it on my wall, basically, like the cycles. And understanding, because it's really, I think there's a large group of us, myself included, that I sense somehow, like energetically, I sense that this is a live creature that needs my, oh yeah, perfect. Needs my love and care, needs to be, left alone, sometimes needs more water now, things like that. But that I don't necessarily sit to think, okay, so what is your cycle? How are you experiencing this? And when you bring this information to a large group of people, the feeling can be, oh crap, I can't do anything anymore. Like now I have to start thinking about that. Like I already have trouble, considering my children, my neighbors, all that. And now I have to start thinking about what that tree feels. Like it's just too much. So I'm just thinking like, it's hard being this, like Mac was saying, being a human. We're the special cases kind of on this planet. We have, you know, for all intents and purposes, we have special needs and abilities. But what is that like? How can you get to a place where you can effortlessly navigate this? Because there are people who are good to humans, and there are people who, and at the same time, they're good to other life forms. And then there are people who are only good towards the more than human world, but they have been, you know, ill-treated by their kind, humans, so they don't really want to deal with them. And then there are people who are blind to the more than human world and only associate with humans with different kinds of successes, basically. So how do you navigate? How can you, or is that even a goal? How can you navigate in this life with, you know, care for all living, care for all? Yeah, please, Anne.
Yeah, it's like it reminds me of the question I got often, like, how can I integrate meditation into my very busy life? Start with 1 minute.
Mhm.
That's it. Doesn't need more, eh? Just 1 minute every day. And then you'll see. And also I put in the chat, I put 2 works by Robin Ball Kimmerer.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The one is Braiding Sweetgrass and the other one is The Service Berry. I find them very accessible and very inspiring in that sense. And in Braiding Sweetgrass, she also it's also a call for action, as little as it can be. It can be tending your garden. It can be saying hello to a tree. It can be organizing a gathering at the full moon. Anyway, it can be a lot of things, and they can be as small as possible. So I think it's really not the big picture we have to look at. It's our small daily life routine that we can look at, and how maybe 1 minute a day you can dedicate to this. Yeah. Maybe we can end there.
Yeah.
And
th-
just one more thing. During walk, you mentioned about this Dutch biologist that I didn't manage to. Can you say maybe just very few words about? She said it was very practical exercises too that she was offering.
So her name is Maya Koistra, and the book, it's a book that's only in Dutch for the moment. I'll paste it in the chat. It's called Leven met bomen, Living with Trees, and she's a biologist, but she spent the last 35 years experimenting with energetic exercises with trees, and how to communicate with trees and how to create friendship with trees. And she did it in a scientific way. Let's say she used her scientific methodologies to test the kind of energetic exercises that she did. And so the book is full of these exercises and her impressions after 35 years of career. It's really a do book, an acting book. I like it a lot. I hope it will be translated in English one day. She also gives workshops.
Thank you.
Mm.
Mac, you had something also to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to call attention to your desire for it to be effortless.
Well, well, it's because, you know, I didn't really introduce myself and what I do since my 20s. I have been my whole it's changed. It's like what Vidalia was saying, the intention sort of, does it change, or you were talking about that. It started in the 20s for me. It started with this very random, if people would just realize that all that we need is in nature, problems would be solved. And then I started with environmental education and trying to get kids, more, I have a brother who's 15 years younger. So I just saw, oh, that's how it is to grow up, basically. And, but then it changed to this feeling of discomfort that a lot of humans go through life with, and my own journey with this, and how nature has played a role, and then realizing that you can't get all of it, because you need your species, and how do you deal with your species? And then I realized, oh crap, that's where the work is, and that's so effortless in the way that, because I know how hard that work is. What motivates you, so that it can be baby steps, and An was giving 1 minute, but 1 minute towards your species, and 1 minute towards the more than human world, and 1 minute for yourself. So
yeah, it's I keep coming back to the idea that the most meaningful thing that humans have to exchange is their attention with each other and with the other than human world. And I would like the management of and the choices I make about how I use my attention to be easier than they seem to be. Because I'm constantly forgetting and lapsing into my conditioning.
same. Yeah. Okay, thank you. It's been a disrupting circle. Thank you for that. But also, and An, I'm so happy that you are here, as in that you are, doing this work in the country and on the land where I live. It's really such great privilege to see your work. So I'm going to definitely keep you on my vizier. So yeah, hope to meet you soon.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you very much. Yeah, for your
So,
attention and your questions and your comments and your wisdom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been wonderful for me, and I want to pass this on to some of the researchers that are involved in this location where I'm at, and see what kind of collaboration might, mutual learning might take place if that's, you sounded like that was something that you were interested in, having a wider spread of what you're doing, and integrating into other venues.
Yeah, maybe I can send, if you have one moment, I can send you the link to the map and you can download the map. It's, I don't do it often because the idea is that we also sell the map. But
stopping the
as you're
recording
far
now.
away,